Darkness fell slowly over the ancient world, but no one noticed it at first. At the center of that darkness stood a city of marble temples, roaring crowds, and marching armies that shook the earth itself. Rome. Once it ruled almost the entire known world. Kings bowed before it, nations feared it, millions lived and died under its shadow. But here is the question that still haunts history today. How did the greatest empire on earth collapse from within? Was it destroyed by enemies outside its borders, or by betrayal inside its own heart? Tonight, we walk through the streets of ancient Rome, through blood, through ambition, through loyalty that turned into treachery. This is the story of how Rome rose like a storm and fell like a warning. Long before Rome became an empire, it was nothing more than a fragile settlement beside the Tiber River, a small cluster of huts built on 7 hills, surrounded by enemies, surrounded by uncertainty, and surrounded by danger. Yet the people of this small settlement believed something extraordinary. They believed they were chosen for greatness, chosen to rule. Their soldiers were not just fighters, they were disciplined machines of war. They marched farther than any army before them. They endured hunger, cold, exhaustion, and death, but they never stopped moving forward. And with every victory, Rome grew stronger. Cities fell, kingdoms disappeared, roads stretched across continents. Trade filled Roman markets with gold and spices from lands most people could not even imagine. Rome was no longer a city, it was becoming a force of destiny. But power always attracts enemies, and sometimes the most dangerous enemies stand closest to the throne. As Rome expanded, its leaders began to change. Victory brought wealth, wealth brought ambition, and ambition brought rivalry. Generals returned from war not just as heroes, but as political threats. Each one believed he deserved more power, more control, more glory. Among them stood one man whose name would echo through history forever: Julius Caesar. A brilliant general, a fearless strategist, and a man loved by his soldiers more than the Republic itself. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his army, he did something no Roman commander was allowed to do. He declared war on his own government. Rome trembled. Civil war erupted. Friends turned against friends. Senators fled. Armies clashed across the Republic. And when the fighting ended, Caesar stood alone at the top. He was no longer just a general. He was the most powerful man Rome had ever seen. Crowds cheered his name in the streets. Statues rose in his honor. His enemies disappeared, one by one, quietly. Suddenly, Rome had a ruler who looked less like a servant of the Republic and more like a king. But Rome hated kings. It had overthrown its last king centuries earlier, and many senators believed Caesar planned to become the next one. Among those senators stood men who once called him friend, men who had fought beside him, men who had shared meals at his table. Now they whispered together in secret rooms. They believed they were saving Rome. They believed they were protecting freedom. They believed betrayal was necessary. On the morning of March 15th, in the year 44 before Christ, Caesar walked toward the Senate. The streets were calm. The sky was clear. Nothing seemed unusual. But inside the Senate chamber, daggers waited. More than 20 men surrounded him. He looked from face to face, confused, surprised, searching for loyalty. Instead, he found steel. The first blade struck, then another, then another. Blood covered the marble floor. Voices shouted, sandals slipped on red stone, and when Caesar finally fell, Rome did not return to freedom. It fell deeper into chaos. The men who killed him believed they had saved the Republic. Instead, they destroyed its last chance to survive. Civil war returned almost immediately. Armies marched again. Cities burned again. Romans killed Romans again. And from that chaos, a new leader emerged, a young man few had taken seriously at first. His name was Octavian. He was not the strongest soldier, he was not the loudest speaker, but he was patient, careful, and dangerous in a different way. Instead of rushing toward power, he waited for it to come closer, step by step, alliance by alliance, battle by battle. He eliminated his rivals, one by one, quietly when possible, violently when necessary, until finally no one remained strong enough to challenge him. Rome was exhausted. Its people were tired of war, tired of uncertainty, tired of blood. So when Octavian offered peace, they accepted, even if peace came with a price. That price was freedom. Octavian became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Republic was gone. In its place stood something new, something stronger, something more dangerous, an empire built on loyalty to one man. Under Augustus, Rome entered a golden age. Roads expanded across continents, trade flourished, cities grew rich and beautiful, law brought order to distant provinces. For the first time in generations, Romans felt safe. But safety can hide something deeper, something darker, something waiting beneath the surface. Because empires do not collapse in a single moment, they begin to crack slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And inside the palace walls of Rome, those cracks had already begun to form. Rome breathed again, but the air was heavy with tension. Octavian, now Augustus, had claimed the ultimate prize. The Republic was gone. In its place stood the first emperor and a new world order. At first, everything seemed perfect. The streets were cleaner. Trade blossomed across continents. Marble temples sparkled in the sunlight. Farmers could sell their grain without fear. Artists painted, poets wrote, and citizens finally dared to dream. Rome had peace, for the first time in generations. But peace is fragile. Even golden ages have shadows. Behind the marble walls of the palace, conspiracies whispered. The senators who survived Caesar's death still watched. Some plotted quietly. Some simply waited. Power, like a serpent, never sleeps, and even Augustus knew it. He strengthened the army, placed loyal men in key positions, built roads, aqueducts, monuments, all to remind the world that Rome was eternal. Yet even as Rome expanded, cracks appeared. Borders grew vast and impossible to defend. Governors grew corrupt. Taxes rose while the people suffered. Generals began to see themselves as rulers of lands, not servants of Rome. And then there were the emperors themselves, heirs of Augustus, each one a fragile experiment in authority. Some were wise, some insane. Some ruled with justice, others with cruelty. Caligula, Nero, Commodus, names that would haunt history. The Senate watched in fear. The people whispered in terror. Rome was no longer united by ideals, but by fear. And fear is a dangerous glue. Meanwhile, beyond the empire's borders, enemies waited. Barbarian tribes, restless, fierce, sensing weakness. The Rhine, the Danube, lands that were once barriers, became battlegrounds. The Roman legions, though vast, were stretched thin. They fought tirelessly, yet the more they conquered, the more they were consumed by ambition. Generals betrayed each other, governors pocketed funds meant for the army, and the people, oh, the people, they grew restless. Inflation, famine, disease, all gnawed at the empire's foundations. Rome's glory was now a mask, hiding a rot that spread like wildfire. Inside the imperial palace, blood had become a currency. Brothers betrayed brothers, generals assassinated emperors, even trusted advisors struck in the dead of night, leaving the throne empty yet again. The empire that had risen through discipline and loyalty was now teetering under its own weight. And yet, the people continued to cheer. Spectacles, games, gladiators, a city distracted by its own magnificence, unaware of the decay beneath. The Tiber flowed on, silently watching as Rome began to crumble, not with a roar, but with whispers of betrayal. The stage was set for a new age of chaos, and in that chaos, new leaders would rise, only to fall in the same endless cycle. Every victory now carried a price, every alliance hid a dagger, every celebration could mask a conspiracy. And so, the story of blood and betrayal continued. Rome's empire stood tall, yet its foundations were fractured. It was no longer an unstoppable force, but a fragile crown of gold resting on trembling hands. From the deserts of Africa to the forests of Germania, the empire's vastness became its vulnerability. Enemies no longer needed to attack. The empire was collapsing from within. And still, people spoke of its greatness. They remembered the glory, the victories, the legends of Caesar, Augustus, the legions that marched farther than any had dreamed. But legends cannot hold an empire together. And soon, the shadow of decline would fall across Rome like a storm built not by outsiders, but by ambition, fear, and betrayal from within. Rome was alive, yet dying, and the world was about to witness its slow, inevitable fall.
Rome staggered under the weight of its own greatness. Generals carved territories for themselves. Emperors died violently, sometimes before their coronation. The people cried for order, but received chaos instead. Cities once filled with marble and gold now saw streets darkened by fear. Taxes crushed the farmers, famine stalked the provinces, disease spread unchecked. The very legions that had conquered the world now mutinied, turned against their commanders, turned against Rome. And yet, even as the empire faltered, its leaders clung to power. Some built walls, some bribed enemies, some simply murdered anyone who dared question them. But walls could not hold, gold could not buy loyalty, and fear could not prevent betrayal forever. Beyond the empire's borders, shadows grew. Barbarian tribes, Goths, Vandals, Huns marched relentlessly. They sensed the empire's weakness, its rotting core. The Rhine and Danube, once shields of Rome, became gateways of destruction. Rome had been a force of destiny, now it was a prize. And inside the city, the heart of the empire, whispers of treachery never ceased. Emperors were assassinated in the dead of night, brothers killed brothers, advisors stabbed in corridors. The Senate had lost its voice, citizens had lost their hope, and the emperors who remained ruled only in name, powerless to stop the collapse. In the West, Rome faced wave after wave of invasion. Fires burned, temples fell, families vanished. The city that had once ruled the world now trembled before outsiders. In 410 AD, The Visigoths entered Rome. They sacked the city, looted its treasures, and the people wept. For the first time in centuries, Rome was no longer invincible. It was a corpse of marble and blood, a monument to ambition and betrayal. The empire lingered, fragmented in the east for a time, but the spirit of Rome had faded. The institutions that had once united nations crumbled. Generals ruled provinces like kings. Corruption strangled justice, and the world watched as a once mighty empire dissolved into pieces, piece by piece, province by province, century by century. Yet even in its death, Rome left its mark. Law, language, architecture, and culture survived, reminders of both greatness and hubris. The world remembered the legions, the emperors, the betrayal, and the blood. And so the story of Rome ends not with a single blow, but with whispers, with treachery, with the slow decay of power from within. It is a story that teaches us empires rise, but greed and betrayal can tear them down. It is a story of men who reached for the heavens only to fall by the hands of those they trusted. It is a story of blood and betrayal, and a warning for all who dare to chase power without wisdom. Rome, magnificent and terrible, lives on in memory, but its streets echo now only with ghosts. Ghosts of ambition, ghosts of loyalty broken, ghosts of an empire that once ruled the world. And finally, the Tiber flows on, quietly, endlessly, watching, waiting for the next empire to rise and perhaps to fall again.